G'day, my name's Nat. Today, we're going to be learning how to make your shots look a lot better by using something called framing. Framing is basically deciding what the audience sees through the eyes of the camera. We'll take a look at the best ways to frame an interview, as well as some general tips for when you're shooting almost anything else. And don't stress if you don't have an expensive camera, these rules apply to anything you use, even your phone. If you are using your phone though, make sure you shoot horizontally. Most TV shows and movies are still shot horizontally because it fills our field of vision more than stuff shot vertically. And when it comes to framing your subject, just remember, you are the eyes of the audience.
Me?
Yes, you. Some people like to put their subjects in the middle and have them face the camera. This can feel personal, like the person is talking directly to the audience, but it's not always the best way to do an interview. Other people will stand off to the side and have the subject talk to them. Most people will prefer to talk to a person instead of directly to a camera, so this will probably feel a little bit more natural. When you're interviewing someone, it's always safest to have the camera at eye level to your subject. Anything else can just look really weird. And don't get too close either. Okay, now we're too far away, we can hardly see them. There we go, that's perfect. Don't change a thing. I said don't change a thing! Don't you know the rule of thirds?
No?
Oh, well, allow me to explain. The rule of thirds isn't a rule, it's more of a concept designed to make your shots look more interesting. It's a way of framing that splits the screen into 3 sections this way and 3 sections this way. The idea is that you want to get your points of focus as close as you can to one of these 4 intersecting lines. Why? It's a long story, and it actually has a bit to do with maths and science, but just trust me, it'll make your shots look a lot better.
But why don't you judge for yourself? Here are some shots with the rule of thirds. And here are some shots without.
But like I said earlier, it doesn't always have to be perfect. Movement can make your shots more interesting. It might be a zoom in or out, a pan left to right, or even following your subject around. But just make sure they know you're there. However, movement can be hard to edit, so if you're just starting out, it's safer to keep things still. Sometimes the simplest shots are the nicest. If you do decide to move around though, just keep the camera still for 10 seconds before or after the shot. You'll be very thankful when it comes time to edit. When using the rule of thirds for interviews, make sure there's space in the frame in the direction your subject is looking, not behind them. And make sure their head is in the right spot, not too big, too high or too low. And keep an eye out for any distracting things in the frame. Like for example, this plant that looks like it's growing out of their head. If you're interviewing a few people, switch sides between each person so that they're not all looking in the same direction. That looks a bit weird. It just looks a lot nicer to mix things up a bit. Let's try that again. See, that's a little nicer. Now let's quickly recap the things we've touched on in this video. The rule of thirds can help make your shots look better and more balanced. When it comes to movement, it's safer to keep things still, but if you do decide to move the camera, make sure to keep it still for 10 seconds before or after the shot. There's a difference between direct and indirect eye contact. Direct eye contact is good for making a connection to the audience, whereas indirect contact is a little bit more common and can feel more comfortable for your subject. Make sure there's some space in the frame in the direction that your subject is looking and not behind them. Also, get their head in the right spot and ensure that there's nothing distracting behind them. And when you're interviewing more than one person, mix up the angles a bit so that they're not all looking in the same direction. So there you go, that's framing in a nutshell for you. And remember, these are just a few concepts to help kickstart your creativity. Every interview you do will be different, but with a few problem-solving skills, you can shoot just about anything. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. I hope you got something out of it. This is the start of a new series we're doing on how to make your own news stories. We're starting with how to shoot a news video, so stay tuned over the next couple of weeks as we look at things like lighting, sound, and location.